Where did the money go, Maria? Julian's voice was a low growl, the sound of a predator cornered in its own pristine, glass-walled cage. He slammed a sheaf of papers onto her desk. Don't lie to me. I wasn't there, but I could picture it perfectly. Because I was the one who had laid the trap. Just last week, I discovered the real game. I thought my enemy was Julian, the man who had systematically dismantled my life. But when I'd leaked the story of his professional misconduct, I hadn't just damaged him. I'd triggered a key person risk clause in his company's charter. And I'd watched, on a document forwarded from a forgotten shared account, as Maria used that clause to transfer controlling interest of his company to herself. She wasn't just his partner in betrayal. She was a shark that had been waiting for the first drop of blood in the water. My blood, now his, 2 serpents, 1 garden. It was time to make them bite each other. I sat in the dark of my new, small apartment, the glow of my laptop illuminating the transfer document. He wasn't just being sidelined, he was being erased. His name, his legacy, the empire he built on the ruins of my own dreams, it was all becoming hers. A cold, clean fire started in my chest. This wasn't just about Julian anymore. My revenge needed a wider canvas. My first move had to be subtle, a whisper. I waited until 10 p.m., the time I knew Julian would be alone in his office, stewing in his own failure, a glass of scotch in his hand. I used to call him then to soothe his ego after a hard day. The muscle memory was still there. I dialed his private line. He answered on the first ring, his voice clipped. "What do you want, Elena?" "I heard about the fallout from the article," I said, my voice carefully pitched to sound wounded, concerned. I wanted to make sure you were okay." A bitter laugh crackled through the phone. "Okay, my firm is hemorrhaging clients. My reputation is in the toilet. I'm far from okay." "I'm sorry," I lied. "But you'll bounce back. You always do. You're the genius, Julian. Everyone knows that." I let the silence hang for a beat. "Maria must be a rock for you right now. She's so ambitious, so driven. I always admired that about her. She sees what she wants and she just takes it." I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. Julian's ego was a fragile, priceless vase. He needed to be the only genius, the only one with ambition. The idea of Maria being his equal, or worse, his superior, was a poison I knew he couldn't resist. "She's handling the crisis," he said, the words tight. "Of course she is," I said, my voice soft as silk. "She's brilliant. She learned from the best, after all." I let that final compliment land, a perfect little dagger wrapped in velvet. "Take care of yourself, Julian." I hung up before he could respond. He wouldn't sleep that night. He'd be replaying my words, reframing every competent thing Maria did as a power grab. The first crack in the porcelain had appeared. Now for Maria. Making Julian paranoid was easy. Making him look like a fool to her required a more delicate touch. I couldn't contact her directly, but I didn't need to. For 12 years, I was Mrs. Julian Vance. I knew every supplier, every contractor, every junior associate who orbited his star. I called an old contact, a man named David, who ran a high-end materials firm. He'd always been kind to me, sending flowers after my recitals. "David, it's Elena Vance." "Elena, my God, I read the news. Are you all right?" "I'm managing," I said. "Listen, I feel terrible doing this, but I have a strange favor to ask." Before I left, Julian was working on the schematics for the new waterfront project. He was agonizing over the Italian marble order, specifically the load-bearing capacity for the main atrium. He was worried the original spec was wrong. With everything going on, I have this awful feeling he forgot to submit the revision. It was a complete fabrication. But it was specific, plausible. "I know it's not my place anymore," I added, a tremor in my voice. "But people could get hurt. Could you just discreetly mention it to Maria? I don't want to bother Julian." "Of course, Elena, say no more. I'll call her first thing in the morning." It's good of you to look out for them. I just want everyone to be safe, I said, and the lie tasted like victory. The next morning, I imagined the scene. David's concerned call to Maria. Her frantic search through the plans, finding no such revision. Her rising panic, followed by irritation. She would have to call the engineers, waste half a day verifying the original specs, all while Julian was breathing down her neck about the lost clients. He would look incompetent, unreliable, a liability. Another whisper, this one echoing in her ear, he's losing his touch. The next phase required me to go back. Back to the house, the mausoleum of my married life. I let myself in with my old key, the air thick with the scent of lilies, her favorite flower, and Julian's oppressive cologne. I needed access to his home office server. It was a risk, but it was the only way. I knew his passwords, of course. They were the dates of his greatest architectural triumphs. He was nothing if not predictable. I slipped into his study, the leather and steel a monument to his ego. It took me less than 5 minutes. I wasn't a hacker, but I was a pianist. I had a pianist's memory for patterns, for sequences. I navigated the server, looking for the company's private accounting folders. I found what I was looking for, a recent wire transfer Maria had authorized. It was a large sum, paid to a new shell corporation for consulting services on the waterfront project. It was probably legitimate, a way to move money around for tax purposes. Julian would have known about it, probably even approved it, but context is everything. I couldn't alter the transfer itself, but I could alter the emails around it. I found the email chain where he'd given his approval. I composed a new email, spoofing the sender to look like it came from Julian's personal account a week ago. The subject line, waterfront account. The body was simple, Maria, I'm still not comfortable with this transfer. Let's hold off until the preliminary audit is complete. Then, I deleted his actual approval email and planted my fake one in its place. I didn't send it. I just left it in his drafts folder, dated from a week prior. A place he would never look unless he was already suspicious. A place he would only find if he was actively digging for dirt on her. I had given him the whisper. Now, I was giving him the shovel. I left the house as silently as I came. The trap was set. Now, I just had to wait for the animal to step in it. 2 days later, the explosion came. I knew because the private investigator I'd hired sent me a one-word text, fireworks. He'd placed a listening device in a pen on Julian's desk, a little gift I'd given my husband for our last anniversary. I put in my earbuds and listened to the recording. It was the scene I'd pictured from the start. Where did the money go, Maria? Julian's voice, a low growl, the sound of paper hitting a desk. What are you talking about? Maria's voice was sharp, confused. It's the quarterly payment for the structural consultants. You signed off on it yourself. Did I? Julian's voice was venomous, because I seemed to remember telling you to hold off. There was a clicking of a keyboard. Funny, I found this in my drafts, an email telling you to wait. An email you clearly ignored. That's insane, Julian. You never sent that. We spoke about it in person. You told me to expedite it, so now I'm imagining things. I'm losing my mind. He shot back. Or maybe you're getting a little too comfortable moving my money around. Maybe you thought I wouldn't notice $100,000 going to a company I've never heard of. That company is a subsidiary of. For God's sake, Julian, you're being paranoid. Am I? He sneered. Or am I finally seeing what's right in front of my face? The ambitious designer who's a little too eager to take control. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by Maria's sharp, incredulous breath. The trust between them, the very foundation of their partnership and their betrayal of me, was shattered. I had taken a hammer to it. A small, satisfied smile touched my lips. It was a perfect dark chord, but the performance wasn't over. That night, feeling the thrill of my victory, I logged back into Julian's network remotely. I wanted to see the fallout, to watch the digital aftershocks. I navigated to his secure messaging app, the one he and Maria used to communicate outside of official channels. Their back channel. Most of the recent messages were a flurry of angry accusations. But one from Maria, made my blood run cold. It wasn't to Julian. It was a new message sent just an hour ago to an encrypted number I didn't recognize. I clicked it open. My heart hammered against my ribs. It read, "The asset is compromised. His paranoia is accelerating faster than projected. He found the shell transfer. He's a liability now. We need to initiate the final buyout before he burns the whole thing down." He never suspected the affair was just the price of admission. I read it again and again. The words rearranged themselves in my mind, forming a picture so much darker than I had ever imagined. The affair, their passionate secret trysts, the stolen moments that had destroyed my marriage. It wasn't a betrayal born of passion. It wasn't an office romance. It was a business transaction. Julian hadn't just been my betrayer. He had been Maria's mark all along. And I, his wife, had just been collateral damage in a game I never even knew was being played.